Hello and welcome to another episode of Cyrils Brettspiele. In a nutshell, my name is Nils and today Rone from Stefanik, hopefully I pronounce you correct, from Greiferisto games. So Greiferisto is technically this game, Rone, and the webpage, by the way, is ronecardgame.com. So if you're interested. So let's talk about Rone here in a nutshell. First of all, the box, that is a very, very stable box, just to let you know. And there's a rulebook in it. Let's talk about the rulebook for a second, because the rulebook is pretty thick as well and pretty sturdy. So it has 48 pages. But no worries, it is so well written. So no worries, it's fairly easy to learn, so it's not super complicated. It looks a little bit intimidating, but it's not. Don't fear this rulebook. Then we have dials. So water, as you can see, here's a water drop, and water is a resource in the game, so you can dial it to 0 and then easily dial it back and forth. That is your currency in the game. Technically it functions just as one currency, and that's nice that you don't have 5 or 6 different ones. You have a couple of tokens, both sided, so +1 in melee attack, and this is -1 in melee attack, so you can flip that on the cards. Same for ranged attack, here minus and plus, and then +1 health or 1 damage token. These are the tokens, double-sided, so well used, and the rest of the game is simply cards. What do we have here? So we have 6 different characters, so-called heroes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each character, let's take a look at this character for a second. Each character comes with a cool picture, a unique picture, and levels 1, 2, 3. At the beginning of the card you have level 1, obviously, and you can upgrade them for 15 water. Again, that's a currency. You have an effect that you can use. This purple means you have to rotate the card to number 1, like this here. If you wanted to use this yellow effect, you have to rotate it to 2, which would be in this turn 180 degrees. And then you can use either that or that effect. You can only twist and turn the card when the card is upside like this in normal orientation. If it's in this, then at the beginning of the turn you refresh your card by rotating it 90 degrees counterclockwise, but that's all. It might have also been an ongoing effect when your unit declares an attack on an opponent's unit. Refresh Oleg 1 time, and Oleg is this character. It also says that is a hero, a robot, and the robot is just for other clue words in the game that might have an effect on robots. So again, 6 different characters. You always start with level 1 and you can level up. Why these levels are important? Let's talk about the other cards here. So these are the other cards. They are looking like this. They have levels 1, 2 and 3 as well, as you can see. And there are 2 different types of cards. Type 1 is a tactic card, which is technically a reaction card. To activate this card, you have a cost here, for an example 3. I'm talking about the green 5 in a minute, but the blue activation cost, and then you get this effect. These tactic cards are functional during your own turn, but also as a response on actions from your opponent during the opponent's turn. You have this in level 1 and level 2 and level 3. However, you also have so-called unit cards. These are unit cards here. They have the same stats over here, but you can see the rotation again here. Let me grab this card a little bit closer. So here's a 2 and a 1 and a 3. And you have also health points and an attack value. This is melee attack. So what you're doing is you spawn these onto the battlefield. You bring these cards onto the battlefield. The battlefield is the area between both opponents. And then when this character is attacking, you simply rotate it to the yellow side, which is different from unit to unit, but in this case it would be 180 degrees. And then on the beginning of the next turn you flip it once, and on the next turn, so 2 turns after, you flip it back. Sometimes you have to exhaust, then it's like this. when someone is playing a tactic card, that means exhaust 1 or 2 times, or refreshing 1 or 2 times. So what does this number mean, this level 1, 2 and 3? Simple. Only if your character is level 2 or 3 you can spawn units or use tactic cards of level 2 or 3. So you must have at least the level number of your hero as you want to play a card. There's a third card type of card in the game, that is this card here, and this is a so-called technology card. Same system, 1, 2 and 3. However, these are ongoing effects. They are on the battlefield, but they are usually ongoing effects and not creatures. They cannot be destroyed. So let's talk about my personal experiences. I will give you a quick overview in a second when I rearrange the table. So in my example, Rupert plays against Ohin, and both of the heroes are on the battlefield. Here the dials are simply showing my current water level or my currency. So I have a pile of 24 cards when I start the game and draw some cards, 6 with a mulligan rule, so I can discard as many cards as I want. From the 6 it's a little bit of a different mulligan rule, and redraw up to 6. So I'm starting out with a hand of 6 cards I can get from a higher level character. Later in the game you also have a discard pile here, which is called a graveyard. But this is technically, first of all, a discard pile. Once all of these cards running out, the draw pile and your hand, you are dead. So this represents your health points, your life. So what you're doing on your turn is you can spawn these things here. This unit, for an example here, it's a walk. You can spawn them for 6 water. So you simply pay 6 water and you spawn them onto the battlefield. So you rotate down 6 and that's it. I know there was only 5, but anyway. Some of them has trigger effects here. This one is a trigger effect that does not apply right now, but some of them has a trigger word battlefield, then something happens. So now on your turn you can decide, should that guy here attack or should it be staying there? If it's attacks, I explained you before, you rotate it here to the yellow side and then he's refreshing from turn to turn. But in this case it takes 3 rounds to return. He has a ranged attack of 1, so he would make 1 damage to my opponent. If he don't have any other units in front of him, he has to take the damage. How can he take the damage? Simply either discard a card from your hand or from your draw pile up on top of your graveyard. Let's talk briefly about the graveyard, and let's take a look at the top card of the graveyard. Here's a catch on the graveyard. Every time a card goes onto the graveyard, you can place it on top or at the bottom of the graveyard, whatever you prefer. But only the top card you can recycle. And for recycling, this green this green symbol comes into play. There's a 5 under the recycling symbol. So to recycle this card and bring it back onto the battlefield, it's a unit, you have to pay 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's assume there would be 5 in it. And these are going out of the game forever because you simply paid them. And therefore you get more cards back, so you have a little bit, slightly more than 24 health points, but that's all. So you play that until someone goes down to 0. Again, these tactic cards can be played at any time from both sides here, so you can use this tactics back and forth to build a tactic pile like this, and then you resolve the tactic pile from top to bottom. Yeah, whoever wins the game is the last man standing in the 2-player game. There's also a 3-player variant and a 4-player variant. The 3-player variant is right now only to download. In the first version of the rulebook, there is no 3-player variant in it, but in the second version there is. There's also an expansion available out there, Rone Awakening here, and another one as well, and there is a player mat as well. However, it's really rare to find in the United States. As always, like in a nutshell, let's talk a little bit briefly about my personal experiences. This is for me a streamlined version of Magic in a post-apocalyptic environment or setting. So you have this despots here, you have this old machine that are looking a little bit like Mad Max and things like that, and you are fighting. But the streamlined version is you have only one resource. You don't have the 5 different. And when you bring out your characters here, you don't bring them tapped, you know, that's a magic word. You have to say rotated here or used or whatever, or exhausted. You bring them in ready to fight. But other than that, it's pretty similar. You can pretty compare this game to Magic the Gathering. You have an income that comes in every round. You have a couple of cards. The main difference is you don't draw cards like hell from Magic the Gathering. So you have a starting hand and you deal with your starting hand. Later on your character gives you an income of 1 card here. As you can see, 1 card. And even in level 3, most of them giving you 1 card. You can use this ability to get another card, so you only have a max of 2 cards and not drawing cards like in Magic every single round. And you also do not discard cards, but you're using your cards as best as possible. The cards you don't need, the higher cards, the 3s in the beginning, you can put in your discard pile if you don't like them and put them in. This is just the standard beginner version. The technology cards bring a lot more into it, so that's really important to know. When you play the first game or the second game, you might think, wow, that's a really lame game. You are drawing randomly, you're creating your deck randomly out of 150 cards, these cards, and if you have a lot of 2s and 3s in it, that's a lot of frustration in it. Later on, you can pre-build your deck. Or you can add this technology cards, which is super helpful too. So the first or 2 games, it's just to learn the mechanics, and that's a little bit of rocky. So you are hanging in the balance a lot of what this card drawing is from the 24 cards. But later on, when you build your deck and really pre-build your deck, at least the 24 cards, and you have a good knowledge about what is in your 24 cards, and you manage your discard pile properly, so you know exactly what you wanted to recycle, and you have a couple of cards that makes recycling cheaper and things like that, you can really build an engine. And that is what Rone is all about. Rone is like Magic the Gathering. You have to learn your cards, you have to learn to combo your cards so that you can play as best as possible with what you have. The differences of the characters are slightly, so that doesn't really matter. It really matters what you build in your deck, what you have for technology cards, and how you combo your cards. And that is for me a very, very strong Magic the Gathering feeling. If you're a big fan of Magic the Gathering and you think, well, I need a little bit of a different theme, why not trying out this sci-fi dark post-apocalypse theme here from Rone. Yeah, that was Nils, Cyrils Brettspiele, another In a Nutshell. And as most of my In a Nutshells, try it out before you buy. I would say, except for you a gigantic Magic the Gathering fan, then you can easily take it. And if you're a fan of the theme, just buy it right now. Other than that, try it. It's hard to find, but you will have a chance somewhere at some point. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.